Florida State has a chance to make another dent in the transfer portal.
You are Locked On Seminoles, your daily podcast on the Florida State Seminoles. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Back into Locked On Seminoles. I am your host, Brian Smith, longtime college football recruiting analyst and writer. Thank you for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. I truly appreciate you stopping in to talk some Noles with me. Today's show is brought to you by the College Football Playoff. And right now, you don't want to miss a moment of the action. The playoff is presented by Allstate and begins with 4 first-round games, December 20th and 21st on ESPN, ABC, TNT, and Max. Today's show is going to be a rundown of Florida State transfer portal news. It's going to be some good, some bad, one projection, and one story. Here's what I got for you. First off, just in case you had not heard, John Mateer, the quarterback from Washington State that so many people have talked about in general, is going to Oklahoma. But that also is good news for Florida State because it means he doesn't go to Miami. That's one of the schools that was definitely interested in him, and he'd actually followed a couple of the receivers that play for the Canes. So I just want to throw that out there. Deuce Robinson, barring something unforeseen, should be in Tallahassee today. The receiver that played at Southern California the last 2 years, in case you did not know. He is the son of one Dominic Robinson, who played for the Noles in the early 2000s, DB and receiver. He is pro FSU, and in my opinion, I'm pretty sure that Deuce is number one on the board regardless of position now. You got your quarterback. You got Darrell Jackson Jr. back. James Williams transferring over from Nebraska. You need a big play receiver. Getting a 6'6", 220 guy with the hand-eye coordination that Deuce Robinson has would be tremendous for Florida State football. Absolutely a huge addition. Look for the Noles to roll out the red carpet. He could help change the passing game very, very quickly. Also, other players coming in. Keegan, I think I'm pronouncing this correctly, Trost, not sure which. He's from Wake Forest. He started all the games this past year for the Demon Deacons at right tackle. Here are his grades. This is a guy, by the way, that's going to visit Mizzou today, Florida State tomorrow. 70.3 overall. Run blocking, 69.1. Pass blocking grade, 68.8. You already got your left tackle, at least it looks that way. If you get your right tackle in the same week, kind of get a head start on this, Florida State would be way ahead of the curve. That would be very, very big for Norvell and his staff. Got to give them credit, by the way. Herb Hand really hasn't been on staff very long. They're doing a good job. To that point, that's the good news on the O-line. In my opinion, the not so good news is Caden Kittler, the offensive lineman that played at UCF under Gus, under Herb. He played center for the Knights. He has committed to Arkansas. Like I said, not all the news is good. So Florida State probably going to need to find somebody else to play the pivot. We'll see how that goes. To that point, Adrian Medley, another guy that played at UCF. He can play multiple spots. I think he'll end up at guard. Maybe he could be your center. I don't know. He's going to visit Florida State as well. That's a guy that is pretty important because he's coming today. They got to get, again, 5-6 guys, in my opinion. Guys with familiarity, that would be really, really good news for Florida State. The guy that I'm most interested in to see what's going to happen, and it looks like he's going to visit here pretty soon, is actually originally from Jacksonville. This is a guy that Florida State, Florida, Miami, USF, UCF, they have an advantage with the portal because a lot of guys that leave this state, when they go to a school, it doesn't work out, they come back home. Well, DeAndre McCray is unusual. He didn't go to a big-time program, then transfer down. He went to a lower-level school, and now he's going to transfer up. He's from Sandalwood High School in Jacksonville. He went to, out of high school, Western Kentucky, according to this. And here are his numbers for this past season. 434 snaps, according to Pro Football Focus. 86.5 on tackling, meaning he's really good with his hand-eye coordination for a bigger body guy. He's 6'4", 283 pounds. 62.9 pass rush, 76.5 overall defensive grade, and his run grade is 78.5. Basically what this means is the guy's not only physically gifted, he's a smart player, puts himself in the positions to actually make a play on the football. Florida State needs a strong side edge. I talked about this yesterday on the show. That has not changed. I think the Noles are in a situation where they had 3-4 guys leave. They're defensive linemen. They can use different players at different spots. I get that. But having a valuable player that's got a track record like McCray, especially one that probably has a chip on his shoulder. He was coming out of high school, according to 24/7. He was only the 117th edge and 272nd player from the state of Florida. So he was overlooked, even though he's at Sandalwood, which is a program that's always had players and one that the Noles have always recruited, going back to Bowden's days, 80s and 90s. So I find that interesting because he's a productive guy. He's got sacks. He's really, really good at staying on the field. 434 snaps. That's a good sign. They could pick him up. That'd be big. He's supposed to visit this weekend. Hopefully, Florida State could wrap that up, and then your defensive line starting to look a little better. Need more depth. That's not in question. But finding strong side defensive ends that can play 4-eye, play 5-tech, those guys don't grow on trees. You need length, you need size, you need multiple years of experience in the weight room. This kid will be playing his 4th year college football next year. This is an important player. Getting him, putting him next to Jackson, next to Williams, etc., that would really benefit Florida State's defense in 2025. So let's see how that goes. One more point here overall about the portal. This is the backstory I had. I thought he was going to go to Florida State, but you never know. I know one of the guys associating with this young man, but Makari Vickers, kid I used to see on the 7-on-7 circuit, etc., he was going to Colorado on Monday, and I was told they were going to check it out, but Florida State had a pretty good shot to get him. That's basically what I was told. He didn't even leave the trip on Colorado, and he'd already committed. And this brings up a point on a trend that I've seen quite a bit here lately. When schools get a visit first, it's just pretty much the polar opposite, actually, of high school. A lot of schools prefer to have the final visits. Kids want to take all the trips. They haven't seen a ton of things. The portal is the opposite. These people have already been through a recruiting prospect when they were in high school. They're not as enamored with it. They get a good offer, they commit, solidify their spot. That's it. Florida State didn't get the first visit with Vickers, I assume, or maybe the offer was just so good from Colorado. That's possible as well. He just decided to go there. But he went to Oklahoma out of high school, had a little bit of productivity over a couple of years. Now it's a scenario where Florida State misses out on a kid that's from Tallahassee. He's going to Colorado to play for Dion. You just don't know. Like I said, probably a day or two ago, I forget which day it was, but it is so much easier to project in high school as compared to the portal. We don't get the same amount of information. We don't get 1/10 the opportunities to meet up with these guys because they're already in college. There are no 7-on tournaments, no camps, etc. for the transfer portal guys. So it's all hearsay. So if a kid takes a visit somewhere, he could pop, he may not. It's really hard to know. It is so random and yet so difficult to project any one player. I would have said pretty good confidence that Vickers was going to sign with Florida State, but now he's going to Colorado. So just keep it in mind, no matter what you hear about a player, if he's taking a visit somewhere else before he visits the Noles, watch out. If they drop a bag or if that visit goes well, a lot of these kids are not enamored with the process like they were in high school. They will often shut it down, and that is it. Speaking of that is it, I'm going to make this the end of the show today. I'm going to go travel a little bit tonight to go scout somebody, but tomorrow we'll be back with more news. Hopefully, Deuce Robinson news will start to come out. That's going to be important. Again, for me, Deuce is the most important player left on Florida State's board. Cannot teach 6'6", cannot teach 220. This is a kid I've been around, great guy. Everybody will like him, and the quarterbacks at Florida State will really like him. Cannot teach that wingspan and the ability to make 50-50 balls, really more like 80-20. So he's got a little bit of a Johnny in him, if you will, from a couple of years ago from Florida State football. And to be honest with you, Florida State needs something to be excited about offensively for fans. A playmaker, be pretty hard to go against Deuce coming in and playing for the Noles. Well, that wraps it up for this show. Thank you once again for making Locked On Seminoles your first listen each and every day. If you have not already, hit that like button, hit that subscribe, hit that notification bell. I will see you again on